Hello, everyone. Agency Reporter, as you all know, has been hosting a special section called In Conversation with. And we are today talking to three very special guests who have taken up a very noble job of spreading digital literacy among NPOs in India. So, welcoming Vineet Handa, who is the founder and CEO of Kaizzen PR Services, uh, Harish Vashistha, he's the executive director of Credibility Alliance, and Dola Mohapatra is the executive director of Rise Against Hunger India. So thank you, Vineet, Harish, and Dola for agreeing to be on the panel today. As I was saying, it's a very noble cause that all three of you have joined hands uh, for, and let's try a little bit and understand what all of you are individually bringing on the table. In what ways is this alliance a perfect match? So Harish, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Dola, and then Vineet can take over. Right, Harish, over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Rahulji, for bringing us together for this conversation. And let me start by giving a brief intro of the sector as a whole and why we are talking of this digi empowerment today. And if you see the size and typology of the voluntary sector and how it has evolved over the years, has made significant changes in the functioning and management of the non-profit organizations. So that's the one aspect. Secondly, if you look from the compliance angle, and there have been a lot of changes in the compliances. If you look at the Income Tax Act, if you look at the FCRA Act, if you look at many other compliances, now gradually all these departments are asking the non-profit organizations to comply through digitally, and not only digitally, but online compliances for their renewal. Now, I'll give you just two recent examples. One is that there has been a change in the 12A and ATG registration of the non-profit organization, which earlier used to be for lifetime, but now they are asking for renewal, which will be again online. Now, the another is that recent FCRA changes. We'll discuss a little more on that, but recent there have been a lot of shift in that act and amendment passed in the recent bill. And the third other dimension is that recently the finance minister, honorable finance minister, has announced for faceless auditing, so which is going to impact a large, so that's from the legal perspective. So that is one area. And second important context is the change in the entire ecosystem. A lot of new post CSR emergence, a lot of new actors have come into the landscape. So in this context, NPOs need to be digitally equipped, digitally empowered to compete with other stakeholders in the ecosystem. So these are two broader context in which is demanding more and more digital empowerment or digital transformation of the non-profit sector as a whole and non-profit organization as a whole. Now, why we are coming to this particular initiative is that within the civil society or non-profit sector, you have a range of actors in terms of their capacities, in terms of their resources, in terms of their human or technical capacities of the organizations. But if you look at the broader landscape, majority or more than 60% are into the rural areas, and majority of the organizations do not have the adequate capacity to manage their organizational affairs, compliances, or even connecting to the external world through digital ecosystem. So in this context, one of the idea was that how do we actually engage or associate ourselves or bring diverse expertise together to reach to the most marginalized and excluded community within the non-profit organizations. So because it has two broad implications. One, that those who are organizations who have the capacity, resources, exposure will survive. Another, I'll just give a brief connect to this also. Recently, there has been a working group report by SEBI, and that is proposing a concept called social stock exchange, which will similar to in terms of the NSE or Bombay Stock Exchange. Now, if that becomes a reality, resource flow will become through those instruments, then how these large number of organizations which are located in the remote tribal areas with limited resources, their survival and their access, which otherwise they are doing very good work at the community level, so their survival will be at the quest. So I think in this context, Kaizzen, Rise Against Hunger, and Credibility Alliance came together and thought, let's have an initiative which can help these small grassroots organization. When I'm using the term small, not in terms of their work, but in terms of their financial resources, in terms of their capacities. So this is the idea where we are trying to bring in small organization and digitally equipping, empowering and transforming them to manage and to deal with the larger ecosystem. And Credibility Alliance, and just to add that, we are the consortium of non-profits in India, established way back in 2004, and promoting accountability, governance, and transparency in the sector. So that has been one of our mandate, to work with the organization to make them capable, so that they are able to deal with the emerging challenges, so that they are able to pursue their mission. So the organizational sustenance is not an important issue. Important issue is the mission they are pursuing for the rural, for the tribals, for the marginalized, for the most excluded communities. So that's how we all three came together and started this initiative. So that's a brief intro. Yeah.
Understood, Harish.
Rahul?
Over to you, Dola.
Yeah, building on what Harish just said, I mean, the current reality is, the whole world has moved towards digital. Okay, and we know the digital divide. Yes, even we are studying reports about how rural children are getting deprived of quality education, or even getting basic education, because they are not that digital. Because out of 1.3 billion people who have access to mobile, 600 million use internet, and only 200 million, almost 1/5 only, are in the rural pockets. That means 1/5 of the total digitally accessing, population, only 1/5 is in the rural areas. And if you ask me, it's a reality that India's majority of the workforce, population, NGOs, they are from the rural sector. Okay, and if any discourse that is happening, like what just Dr. Harish said, the SEBI, the digital empowerment, digital payment, filing your returns, applying for new licenses, everything is moving towards digital. And here is a reality where 1/5 of the population in the rural areas only have access. So it's a basic question of, it is no more a nice thing to have, it's a necessity. But it is not that. It is actually not just that, being digitally literate. Now we are saying, how can you function in such a divided world, where you are not digitally accessing any information? So the good thing is technology has penetrated. In the villages also technology is there. Can we now bring this, so-called inaccessible part of the non-profit sector to be able to? We are not calling them just digital literacy. Actually, digital enablement, digital empowerment. By that, what we mean is, first you embrace the concept that it has to be a digital. I mean, you become quite comfortable in handling things. Then you can access, say, go to the Darpan portal, go to the ministry websites, download forms, fill in yourself. Simple, so you could do that, being comfortable. Second, when you are running your organization, you should be able to tell what you are doing. Now earlier people used to be able to visit, see. Now more and more, if you talk about the millennial and the large chunk of donors, or the audience who support your cause, they want to see what you are doing, and you must be visible on the digital platforms. So if NGOs, especially those grassroots NGOs who are genuinely present on the ground and working day in and day out, toiling, daily, and who are actually making difference, the only challenge that we see is they are not able to communicate. They are not able to come out and say this is what is happening. So first thing is, you understand that this is a new world, new reality for all of us. Second, to be functional, you can't just be doing. Earlier, the NGOs were driven by this passion that our work itself should speak. But now, in a digitally comfortable world, you also have to be savvy, and tell what you are doing. Okay. And the third thing is supporter, not just telling, also drawing your funds, to draw. Nowadays, people sitting in San Francisco can pay for a project going on in Motihari. Yeah, somebody sitting in another country in Australia may support a project in Kalahandi, because the digital gives you that boundaryless support. So if you are able to bring, these NGOs who are actually working on the ground and give them this platform, then you are not only helping them embrace technology, but also use technology for better efficiency, better management, better governance, and better fundraising. And also the element of trust will build up, because there was an issue about, whether NGOs are doing or not, we don't know. By putting your things out there in public domain, you are basically putting yourself to scrutiny, and you are becoming more and more accountable. So to begin with, that's why this is such a really need for the sector now.
Right. Thank you, Dola. And Vineet, if you can just take us
Oh,
through the
very
same thing.
interesting. Hearing two biggies, Dr. Harish, Mr. Dola Mohapatra. So first of all, a big thank you to both of you to considering Kaizzen being as one of the partners, wherein I believe we bring in the digital support to the whole thing. As per them, we are the experts in digital. Now, I'll tell you the angle which is more emotional around the whole DigiKushal as a project. When I started Kaizzen, for first 1.5 years, I didn't have a website. Very interesting, Kaizzen didn't have any presence, digital presence. Kaizzen was operating, there were a few clients. But the day I got my website, and that was also done by a friend free of cost. And I'll tell you, I have not paid him yet, because I said it's not about the money. You helped me, and I would remember that for a whole life. So I still have not paid him, and I know I will not pay him, because paying does not take away the whole what he has helped me with. So coming back, the day the website was launched, I probably would have gone to some 20 or 25 odd people, friends, family, and say, hey guys, I have a website. I'm present digitally. My brother was in Dubai and sent him, see, bhai, you can see what I'm doing here. So, that feeling is of having a digital presence was so great to me. And I think that is what I'm really going to bring to these 2,000 odd NGOs. If we are able to complete this project,
Yes.
This is what I'm going to bring to. The other concept which I always talk about is jo dikhta hai, wo bikta hai. And it's a very simple line, but today's world is definitely seeing is believing, seeing is buying. So keeping both these things in mind, I think it's very important to give these NGOs who are doing some amazing work on ground some presence to the world, make them alive, give them life. For us, there is a life, but many billions of people, they are just names. We want to give them the identity. And I think that is what is the mission of this particular project, DigiKushal. And I'm again thankful to you, Rahul, to give us this opportunity to talk to you, and Dola sir and Harish sir to taking Kaizzen as a partner. Really privileged.
Thank you, Vineet. So moving to Harish, going to Harish now. So Harish, NPOs have played a big role in this pandemic. And why just pandemic, by the way? NPOs have always played a crucial role to provide relief and spreading awareness in lakhs and lakhs of projects all across. Right. So how much has current digital methods helped the NPOs? And to what extent will things change with the influx of this elaborate digital literacy?
Yeah. See, there are two very important aspects you have raised. One is that how it has helped, and especially you mentioned about the COVID. And I think when everybody was inside and government was struggling, large number of the civil society organization, which includes other than the non-registered non-profit, but a civil association came in front, and they really helped the people. So that's very important aspects, and still a lot of organizations. A few days back we did an event where we acknowledged and recognized the heroes who have been contributing and working during these difficult times. So that's one aspect. Second one, I think technologically this is very important. For example, I'll give you a simple example. For example, a few years back, the FCRA, Foreign Currency Regulation Act, they made it mandatory after this FATF issues and linking of all these PMS banks. So they made it mandatory to disclose either on your site or on the site of the ministry. So for example, for many organizations were struggling on that issue. So gradually it is actually becoming one of the need of the organizations to be digitally equipped, fit to deal these challenges. And secondly, like Dolaji mentioned, there are issues of sustainability of the organizations to pursue their mission. Now, if you look at the funding sources which was granted in a large number, their available is shrinking very rapidly, and the other sources are available only through few other like CSR and National Donor, now crowdfunding, many other new platforms are there. So in this context, for survival of organization is becoming based on your connectivity and ability to communicate and be connected with the stakeholder locally, nationally, and globally. So that is, I think, one important aspect. Second one is from the transparency, governance, and accountability point of view. For example, if you see, we have more than 100 certified charities, and it is mandatory to disclose their all finances, annual work, task, everything in a public domain. So promoting the transparency and accountability, which is a global movement, a global call also. Even in India, there has been different ruling by Supreme Court, followed by many other commissions and committees by Niti Aayog. The huge discussion is going on around this transparency and accountability issue also. So this becomes one of a very proactive. Uh, for some other time, you will have some discussion that within Credibility Alliance, we always say that openness doesn't mean you take your cash box in public and say, look, this is our money, we are very open, transparent. You are proactively disclosing your finances, your conflict of interest, and many other aspects in the public domain. So making yourself more credible organization, Dolaji mentioned, bridging the trust deficit with the various stakeholders. I think this digital competency and digital ability of the organization becomes very important. Here, I just want to make one, I think, wonderful story. Vineet ji said, still that is still a dream. For many organizations having a good organizations like us, Credibility Alliance, who have been there, and people like us who have been almost for 25 years in this sector, work locally, globally, we're struggling with the technology also. But I think it is not only the virtual presence of the organization. These days you will find there's an influx of a lot of organizations will make a website free, and all that cry is there in the market. But our concern is not to be virtually present, but virtually you are able to look or to induce your organizational governance, your management, your compliances, your visibility, and your ability to engage and interact with the various stakeholders in the ecosystem. And now that ecosystem is not only local, but it is also global. So I think what Prime Minister Modi sir has been saying, global and local, but that entire discourse is important. So in this context, I think nowadays it's very important to be digitally equipped, and not only equipped, but the ability to manage your organizational affairs. So I think this will become much and more relevant, and the basics for the survival and sustenance, and to be relevant in the development ecosystem as a whole. So I think it's very urgent and important at this hour.
Sure. Thanks, Harish. Yeah. So, Dola, I know this alliance is aiming at digitally empowering about 2,000 NPOs. But what is the landscape like? I mean, how big is the entire base of NPOs that need this kind of literacy? We have government data from 2012, I think, but that's too old. It's about 8 years old. So, what are more recent numbers like? Dola, you are on mute.
You need to unmute. Yeah.
The challenge with the NGO data is everybody and anybody who cannot be anywhere has a registration under NGO. Like your literary clubs, housing societies. They are all even libraries. All of them are literally they are registered under the same act. So if you take the universe of registration, it could cross anywhere between 3.5 to 40 lakhs. 3.5 to 4 billion. Okay, so and it's a huge universe. But if you take the numbers that are actually working, it can be anywhere between 1.5 to 2 million. NGOs. Okay, again. I want to step back a little bit and say what is the actual universe why this is becoming a bit of challenging, okay, area for everybody. Earlier, you want to do something with 5 of your friends, register an organization, you will go and do some social work, okay, and somebody will pay, some grant will come, and that's how most NGOs started, okay. Now, because the global economy has evolved in a different way, leaving aside the current economic downturn and all, there are people who are looking for new markets. Okay, so since commercial part of market is almost getting saturated and new products, all those are not coming, social sector is being seen now as a market. Okay, if you see the social stock exchange concept, private venture equity fund, almost like venture capital fund, private equity funds, all those are new concepts coming in. Okay, and this is required. We are not among those who are thinking that this should not happen, because all said and done, we have 200 million people still hungry, 20% of people who are still not having access to basic comforts of life, unemployment rate is high. So social sectors, health, education, and basic livelihood, these sectors will need massive investment, and government doesn't have enough resources. Foreign funding is coming down. So who are the new funding partners for this sector now? Corporate funding, which is one of the biggest pot that is available now. Government is another big social sector investor, and private individuals, individuals with equity fund. Okay, so these people are now getting into the space. Okay, if you see now, social entrepreneurship is a big trend. Okay, social entrepreneurs, however, may have the ideas, they may bring the capital, they may bring the resources, they may bring ideas, but the connect with the grassroots, what is the problem you are going to solve, that comes from the field, person who is there, because it's not like a product selling, it is actually dealing with human sentiments, human relations, how you are enabling people on the ground. So if the grassroots people can become partners with those who have resources, you are seeing a new decade of action. United Nations has said 2020 to 30 will be decade of action, and the only challenge to achieving global sustainable development goals is India. If because of the number and size of the population and the number of people we have, bottom line, bottom of the pyramid, unless we bring this massive, force of the huge grassroots Sena who are actually working on the ground, and those who have got the resources and the knowledge and the technology, the social capital, because we are losing human potential by not investing in the social sector, by not investing in our health and education, and basic livelihood sector. So by bringing these two elements together, we will be able to, what government, many people complain that government has become a welfareistic, it is giving only and not enabling people. With this, we actually want to create that, market competition. If it is competitive and if you are doing something, you will be able to sell, you will be able to tell, what you are doing. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. The element of passion, commitment, and grassroots connect will be an additional value for a venture capitalist. And in the social stock exchange, there is this concept of pooling together. I mean, if you are an investor, you can put your funds to a fund, and 100 NGOs who are working on, let's say, gender, they can access resources. So they can all pool together these resources. So I see the new technology is the only way you can have all these opportunities coming to you.
Thank you, Dola. Vineet, since Dola talked so much in detail about the overall scenario, now let's understand from you the current scope of work. Basically, what's the plan and how are you going to do it? Vineet, you're on mute.
We all understand, one thing which is common is what is our end goal? What are we trying to do? How it will help the NPOs who are working on a grassroots level. And I think these are the people which we're gonna talk to. As far as scope is concerned, I believe scope will vary from NPO to NPO. Even if one of the things which we can do through our workshops, our messaging, our reaching out, is seeding this thought and and they start thinking on the lines of going digital or understanding digital. Even if it means we help them to open a Gmail account, I would say that all would be a success for us.
Yes.
There are various parameters which we are working on from our success point of view, which starts from, for us, probably as the biggest success would be if we can get an NGO not only digitally present, make sure that they are digitally literate, they know and they understand emails, they understand, how do we collect money, how do we have payment gateways, which helps them to reduce the middleman, which helps them to get more money directly for their work, which can be get better deliveries on ground, to an NPO who is a tele-literate and can actually start maintaining their their expenses on an account sheet which is understood by the world. So I'm just saying the scope is very simple. Scope is right now to go from A to B, or probably 0 to 1. That is what is our scope right now. And then there is no end to it. Tele is one thing. Probably we would want them to sort of start looking at their social media pages. Their community should know. The social media, India is probably one of the fastest growing markets. People do not understand, a WhatsApp and a Facebook and all of these. Instagram has changed the whole world, right? In India, the complete messaging has changed, the way messages are delivered. So I think that's very important. The other thing which I really feel, one of our other scopes which we really want to work on, which is not primary but a secondary, my experience about the people who are working on a grassroots, these NGOs, the people who are part of these NGOs are essentially nothing but the role models in those small villages. And if these are the guys who are digitally literate, I am sure that they're gonna bring in a complete change in the society with the digital literacy. So the impact is much stronger, much larger, much deeper. That's how I personally see this, that it's like we used to say, teach a guy, you're teaching only one person, but teach a woman, you're teaching probably 5 people. And that's how I personally see You teach a person digital literacy to a grassroots person like an NGO or a representative of an NGO, you're actually gonna bring around the whole change in a society, in a village, and that's how I personally see. So the scope is actually very limited. We want to move from 0 to 1, but even if we are able to reach 1, I know the impact would be much stronger.
That is very wonderfully put, Vineet. But Harish,
Right.
I'll just come to you from a compliance angle. What are the type of changes digital literacy will bring in, and who all will be affected parties? And just very quickly, if you can take this up, Harish, if you're on mute.
Oh, thank you.
Take
See,
a minute,
from
Harish, right? Very quickly, we'll have to take this up. Sorry.
from digitally, if you say the compliances, it starts with the incorporation. So all incorporations are going to be online and already has started. Now you coming to the second aspect. Once you are a registered entity, you want a tax exemption. So all tax compliances are going to be online, and renewal of these compliances is going to be renewal. The FCRA license is going to be the renewal, or the online compliance is going to be the very key in the FCRA renewal, and also the compliances for receiving fund. And then finally, uh, how you are going to deal with the emerging issue of the faceless assessment or the auditing of the organizations, which is going to be a big challenge in coming days. So I think it is going to impact seriously, and there is a need to work seriously on these aspects. So that's my quick intake on this issue.
Thank you, Harish. So, Dola, very quickly coming to you, and in a minute, if you can explain us that if grassroots NPOs are digitally empowered, what kind of changes we will see on the ground, and how will that affect masses?
Okay. Well, just a simple example. Nowadays these are transformations happening actually. For example, milk suppliers, dairy in Punjab. You will see that they do the price check every day. Farmers in some mandis, local mandis, they get e-nam. That means they are able to determine the price of their product. So a big transformation will be, product, market, and pricing. Like whatever they are doing, they will be able to instantly connect with the wider world. So that's a big and you already said that the middleman, who used to get the lion's share of whatever work was happening on the ground, will be eliminated. So that's one big impact. Second big impact will be in terms of how they educate their staff, how they retain their staff, volunteers, and how they can aspire to be different. Most of the grassroots workers we think are, they don't have ambition, but this will enable them, through lot of courses are available online, a lot of courses, and government has offered, many universities are offering. And why can't a village boy or girl who is working in an NGO, why can't she expose herself and read and learn a lot of things? So human capacity, which is a big challenge in non-profit sector, I see this will enable the entire sector by giving them that exposure to learning, understanding the new dimensions. Like UN is releasing something, and the grassroots organizations have the same time they are getting access to this information as you and I are getting. So this will actually bring a lot of transformation and revolution in the sector.
Understood, Dola. And coming to you, Vineet, now, empowering 2000 NPOs must be giving you a new kind of kick. But digital literacy will not happen overnight, right? What is the follow-up methodology that you're going to adapt? Vineet, you're on mute.
Apologies. So, very interesting. I've been calculating this 2000 NPOs. If we're planning to do, say, a batch of 15 to 20, that means approximately anywhere between, 100 or 120 sessions over next, say, 2 years. That means what we are doing is approximately 10 sessions or 8 sessions every month. That means 2 sessions every week. That is what the kind of preparation which we are working right now. It's not going to be a small thing. It's going to be a huge challenge. And it's not only finishing over the one session or two sessions. There's going to be a mechanism to handhold them, help them to understand, do advanced sessions with them. So these 2,000 reaching out to 2,000 NGOs will probably turn up to 4,000 or 5,000 sessions. Double of that. So the idea is actually to do a massive, and that's what we are working on right now, putting our heads together to make sure how we sort of move on. But I'm sure this is going to be one of the most exciting projects, at least in my life, and I'm really looking forward to it. And through this platform, I really want to also spread a message that this won't be possible without the partnerships. And I'm really looking forward to the right kind of a brands who really feel and believe in the work which we are doing should come forward and help us. That's what we really look forward to.
Sure, I know a lot is on your shoulders, Vineet. All right, so final question to everyone, and it's a fantastic cause, and it's an amazing initiative. But in my personal opinion, it needs to be done at a seriously large level. Vineet was just mentioning that, and so according to all of you, what will it take to educate lakhs of NPOs at the same time, and what level of support is already there or is needed from the government, right, to make it a revolution kind of a thing, right? Last question to everyone. Harish, you can go first, then Dola, then Vineet.
I think you raise a very important issue, Rahul, and I think it's a need of the day. And there is a entire nation is dealing currently the digital system. I'm just coming back to one question which you asked to Dola ji quickly. One other dimension is that nowadays all NGOs are working with communities, and their entitlement and benefits are coming through DBT and their compliances. So a lot of struggle is taking place at that level also. For example, job card, other documents, that is not happening. Secondly, on these particular questions, I think we need to look on from a multi-pronged strategies, connecting with the government, connecting with the CSR and others. And we have already discussed that in our, so that we can have a campaign mode also, organizing into different categories. So for example, we have a campaign, we have very intensive inputs, we have a general input depending on the requirements. But yes, we need to go to the larger numbers, because the 2,000 is nothing. If I may say that even 1 lakh organizations are registered with DARPA, 20,000 NPOs are with FCRA, 1 lakh organizations with income tax. But then if you look at the larger, then you need to categorize also, like Vineet ji was saying, that organization with very low capacity, medium capacity, high capacity, our input will also vary with different set of organizations. So if we build a campaign and engage or forge partnership with multiple actors and sectors, we would be able to go to take it to the scale. So we are very hopeful, and institutions like yours and people like you could become a very instrumental and bring a new energy and connect to these processes further. And I just want to reinforce that this is not a profit-making initiative. So the entire, what 2,000 we are looking at is a project, and as a program, this may have a lot of scope for scaling up on a larger landscape of the non-profit. And yes, we look forward much more number, but this is just in a project mode to test, develop, and to create a mechanism which can be then replicable to a large number of organizations on a large scale. Yeah, that's my quick.
All right, I hope, Harish, it does wonders. At least this project does wonders. Dola, what's your opinion, quickly?
Yeah, I feel we want to convey two things. One, that there is a new world, and everybody deserves to be part of that world. And we want to demonstrate it. So we could have gone to somebody and apply for a grant and to start, till things happen, we will. So we thought, let us begin, and do something. But it takes the whole village. Yes, so it takes the government, it takes the technical agencies, it takes the software providers, it takes the hardware providers. So I don't see, this being a project just by 3 agencies. I can kind of see this as a movement, like the Googles of the world, like the Ciscos of the world, like the big tech agencies. We feel, giving 40, 50 laptops or 1,000 laptops here and there is not you are not enabling. If you actually empower, and provide your tools to somewhere where they can transform lives, nothing like it. And I'm sure, like a couple of years ago, we know Google had already done this Wi-Fi, hydrogen Wi-Fi arrangements. I feel if this takes off, there will be a lot of other such partners who would perhaps join forces. We are a small player. DigiKushal is just an initiative. Yeah, there are many more things that could be done, and we want to build that force. We want to be instrumental in creating that force. Another clarification I want to make before concluding is, we are not here to sell tools. Like we are not selling, let's say, so and so, because I have seen some workshops happening where you are teaching an NGO or a worker on particular tool, how to use so and so. This is not about that. This is about how do you communicate digitally, how do you use digital for your work, what you do every day, how can you use the digital platform. And once that happens, any tool can be used. Any tool. How do you create your website? How do you create your crowdfunding platform? How do you use your, so all those, how do you Photoshop? How do you create
Dola, we lost your voice.
tools? Focus is on the skill.
I think, yeah, Dola, we lost you at the end, but I think you mentioned that this is not something that you are here selling, but this is
Yes.
a common literacy program. Vineet, what's your opinion? You're on mute. If you can unmute. Thank you.
I liked when you spoke about that, how you're going to cover lakhs of them. So I think we're not going to cover the lakhs of them. We're going to cover the 2,000. It will work like a snowball. And you create champions, and those champions will further go and spread the word. And I think that is what our job is. We're going to ignite this digital literacy in the NPO sector, and rest of the things will follow. We just want to take that route and make sure that tomorrow, in next 2 years, we have 2,000, but in next 10 years, we have the complete universe of NPOs have their digital presence. They understand what we are talking, and sort of good for bigger NGOs, bigger people like Credibility Alliance and Rise Against Hunger India to sort of reach out to these people, get some good work done, and make sure. Means I'm really shocked. India, which is supposed to be the world power now, top 6 countries, top 7 countries in the world, and we come 93rd in a hunger index, lower than our neighbors, which I feel as a countryman, I feel ashamed. I feel ashamed. And I think these are the things where we can actually reach out to the people, make sure that we are reaching out to the right people, making some real impact out there. That's all what I would want to say. Thank you.
I think that's very wonderfully summarized, Vineet. And great. Thank you, Dola, Harish, Vineet, for taking out time from your busy schedule and joining us today on In Conversation With. Appreciate you all being here, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rahul.